Hi, Roger. Hi, Kent.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, Ken.
How are you?
Good. You staying warm and cozy and safe?
Yes, just fine. How about you?
Just a quick little divergence here. You know, you gave me Doug's email.
Doug Cook,
Carolyn, while we were on the walk after talking to Doug, she called Archbold, got a human being on the phone in 3 minutes. We drove up a couple days later, got our first dose.
Great.
We were not there from beginning to end. We got our inoculations in about 2 minutes and then waited to 15 to 30, and that was it.
Yeah. And
And
where do you stand on the second shot?
I've got a couple of weeks yet here. Yeah.
Cool. That's wonderful.
So something dramatically different going on between Georgia and Florida. And I understand they're no longer accepting Florida residents.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm glad you got in when you did.
Yeah.
We had our second shots last Thursday afternoon, and it was like 180 from the first day when we went.
Good.
And it was, this hundreds of people and mass confusion. And when we went last Thursday, we had an appointment. We were the second car in the line when we pulled in, and we were in and out of there. Probably 10 minutes to get the shot, and then the 15-minute wait.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're ironing out the bugs.
So Matt, you're 28 or so. When do you get your shot? Like July?
Of 2022, yes. That's correct.
Hey, there's one advantage to being in your 70s or 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's one. I think there's a few more than that, but neither here nor there. But yeah, I don't.
Fewer trips to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I can tell you that.
Right. Yep. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Failing plumbing, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be getting a shot anytime soon. I mean, and when it happens, I think I'll probably be looking to FSU first, since they're my employer, and see what.
Oh yeah, I know a couple of people who've gotten their shots through the FSU portal or whatever they're calling it, and they were very happy with the experience. Very
Good.
happy.
Yeah, no, the University Health Services there on campus has been doing a very good job of not only running the testing and handling all that from the beginning, but also has their own on-site lab for evaluation.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Results,
I was taking an Ollie class from Jonathan Dennis. You know him?
Yeah, I know the name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was taking an Ollie class from him about the human biome, which was a fascinating class, only it just got washed off the deck by the pandemic that happened right in the middle of the semester. And he just turned the class into the last 3 weeks about the virus. And he also was talking about, I think what I need to do is get a lab going here. And apparently he's done a hell of a job. Yeah.
Yeah, it really has. It's been very good. And I think when the time comes that they start, based on what they see the state doing, they start opening up the different groups for shots and so forth, then it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. But I have confidence that they're going to do a pretty good job. They have so far.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get it soon.
Yeah, me too. Although I'm not in a big hurry to leave my current environs here working remotely. I'm pretty happy doing that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, folks are straggling in here. Just now, top of the hour. Evening all. Sam, how are you? Oh, I think you're on mute, Sam.
How about now?
Much better.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Got some slow buffering going on in South Florida.
Really?
And it looks like Sam brought some of his colleagues from South Florida with him.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I'm from Naples.
Mel, Steve, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you.
Hopefully Sam has told you nothing but good things about our group, which would be, of course, nothing but lies, but that's beside the point.
No, I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve, how are you?
You good? I'm Sam. Where's Sam at? There he
Yeah,
is.
Sam, he is, it looks like getting some technical assistance at the moment.
Yeah, I'm in
He's otherwise-
Englewood. If you know where Englewood is.
Do know where Englewood is, yes.
Yep, it's just north of us. I'm in Naples, Steve.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I've
very
been down
good.
to your few of your meetings, Mel.
Oh, that's right. Yep, haven't had any lately, but we will as soon as this pandemic's over.
Yeah, up in North Florida here, we've been doing the Zoom thing since, I guess, April was the first one we did. March was our last in-person meeting, because we had it right at the beginning of the month before the pandemic and the shelter in place and all that hit. So,
Hey, Matt, the new guys, can they tell us a little bit about themselves and who they're? Come on, Dave.
yeah, we can, that's a good idea, Brent. Let's start doing a little introduction here while we're waiting for folks to head on into the meeting here. I'm Matt Keelan, chapter president of the Buck O'Neill, North Florida chapter. Hey, Warren, how are you? See, Warren's joined us from the Central Florida. Oh, Warren, I think you're on mute there.
Oh, there I am.
There we go.
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Good, good. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
Peter Gordon sent me the invitation. He couldn't make it, asked if I would sit in, and we're going to be trying to do some of these Zooms. So I thought I'd just get an idea how you all operate this way.
Okay, very good. Well, happy to do it. I think probably once you've seen how we do things, you'll want to go 180 from that, but that's okay.
We've had
That, that has a lot to do with our personnel, though, Matt.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's true. That's true. As a general manager, my hands are tied. There's very little I can do with the personnel on the field. So,
We've had a couple. I've had a couple of guests, but I haven't done anything without a guest yet, and trying to come up with some programs.
gotcha. Yeah. For those who don't know, Warren is chapter president of the Central Florida chapter in Orlando, the Orlando area.
Right. Nice to meet you all.
Yes, and I guess as I was saying, Matt Keelan, Buck O'Neill chapter president, so on and so forth. Tigers fan, in case you can't tell from the picture behind me there. But we'll go around the horn here and introduce us North Florida folks. Roger, you're in the upper left here, so I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, upper left. That doesn't work right for me, in many ways. Long time Milwaukee Braves and kind of Atlanta Braves fan, and joined SABR many years ago, but this group maybe just a year or so ago.
Well, I think it might have been a little bit longer than that, wasn't it? I was thinking maybe it was a couple years now.
Fourth quarter, several meetings at fourth quarter. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you were drinking with us, it's more than a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
you survived the fourth quarter. You can survive COVID.
And the birthday party at the pizza place.
Yes. Oh, okay. We won't talk about that. I don't want to scare
Yeah, really.
you or PTSD or anything. All right, Mr. Putnam, if you please.
I'm Kent Putnam, and I'm the chapter secretary. And I think I've been a member of SABR and this chapter for 5-ish years, something like that. And my teams run toward the Red Sox, the Rays, and the American League. Pretty much anybody that could beat the Yankees. And in the National League, Cubs fan from childhood, and like Roger, I've followed the Braves down from Milwaukee to Atlanta.
Very cool. And representing the esteemed opposition on the other side of the aisle, I'm going to go first with Mr. Turner.
Okay. I guess opposition to the courts. Longtime Yankee fan, grew up in Jersey. Also have an Expo fandom in me just from a work experience with the team. Now living in Tallahassee.
Very good. And your esteemed colleague on that other side of the aisle, Mr. Robertson.
Hi, guys. I'm Glenn Robertson. Grew up in St. Petersburg, where the Yankees trained back in the day, and became a Yankees fan. Much to the chagrin of my father, we had come down from Chicago. He was a Cubs fan through and through, and he knew he would eventually have a black sheep, and he did me, because I became a Yankee fan at that time. I've been in the chapter, I think, like Kent, about 5 years or so, and just enjoy the heck out of this experience. Welcome.
All right, Art, you're next.
Arthur Copeland. I am a Reds fan because of Dave Concepcion,
Nice.
who was a slick fielding shortstop, elegant, athletic, everything that I was not when I became a fan. As a glove first baseman in Little League. So Reds fan, and in Philadelphia for 15 years, where I saw a lot of Reds games, a lot of weird Reds games. Got to go to a Reds playoff game and promptly watch Roy Halladay no-hit them. Definitely the highlight of Reds watching for me.
Yeah, we have an infamous story in our chapter about that particular game, that Halladay no-hitter. We were at the aforementioned Fourth Quarter, which is a sports bar here in Tallahassee, for our monthly social. And we were talking and gabbing and carrying on and complaining about this and bemoaning that. And suddenly, in about the 8th inning, somebody looked up at that game, which was on the giant screen TV in the bar, and said, "Has Halladay got a no-hitter going?" None of us had bothered to pay any attention. So that's a good baseball history and statistics society chapter for you. So
yeah, I wish I could have not paid attention. I was in the stadium.
All right, Mr. Kalistad, you're next, sir.
I grew up in South Dakota. Was a Twins fan as a youngster. Ended up with a career with the Associated Press and actually covered the Twins through part of the 70s. Went on to different things with the AP over my career. I still probably am more closely aligned with the Twins, since I have a great interest in them from my youth and even professional world. Joined SABR between 4 and 5 years ago, and it's been probably the best decision I've made in retirement. It's really been a great and very enjoyable experience.
Definitely. I hope we can all say that. Hopefully so. All right, Lori, I'm going to put you on the spot next.
Well, I should at least unmute myself. There we go. Hi, I'm Lori Wilner. I have lived most of my life in Florida, although I've lived a lot of other places as well. I became a Braves fan due to TBS, and I used to watch them in the middle of the night or early in the day, depending on where I was. And a lot of people ask me how I became a baseball fan, and I really don't know. Neither my father nor my brothers were really baseball fans, but I went with a friend in high school and her family to Wrigley Field. And if your first big league experience watching the Cubs at Wrigley doesn't make you a fan, then I guess nothing will.
I agree.
Here, definitely. Cool, thank you. And Mr. Gaddis, you're next.
Hey everybody, I guess I'm like the kid of the group, at a young, right, 33 years old. Yeah, I got an invite from Brent maybe 2 years ago, something like that. Yeah, I grew up kind of in a baseball household. My dad was a huge Braves fan back then. He stopped liking them when Glavine went over to the Mets. He stopped liking baseball. But, I stayed a Braves fan pretty much my entire life. I can't imagine being a fan of another team. It's just, every game, every pitch, every baseball card I look at, there's just so many like memories and stuff, it's a very like emotional, nostalgic sort of thing for me. The whole game, the whole spirit of baseball. So.
Hammers, eh? Ben, hammers?
Hammers. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. I appreciate it. All right. Now, if you all don't mind, and hopefully this doesn't drive anybody off, among the first timer attendees, and actually Sam, who's now a veteran of this chapter and yet seems to be coming back again and again, not sure why. I'd like to get, if you would each in turn go ahead and introduce yourselves, excuse me, and say a little bit about your interest in baseball as well. And Sam, I am going to pick on you first. Oh, I think you're on mute again, Sam.
It's mute. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I keep losing the signal. I got to go back and forth. But from the South Florida chapter, lifelong Pirates fan, going back to the first game I ever saw in, I guess it was 1966 at Forbes Field, up till about 69, and they moved into Three Rivers Stadium. I've gotten immersed in Florida minor league baseball history since I moved here, and mostly written about Miami, but I've covered other teams from Sanford, and some minor league teams outside of the state of Florida, the old Waco Pirates and the Hazard Bombers in Kentucky. I see my friend Steve Smith is here. We share our love of the old Florida International League. That's basically about it for right now.
Thank you. Steve, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask you to go next, please.
Okay, I'm Steve Smith.
Sorry,
I
Steve
guess
Smith.
I've been to a few meetings of Sam's chapter in Miami, and they've always been enjoyable. I actually collaborated with Sam on an article about the Florida International League, the Miami Sun Sox in 1952. I grew up a Twins fan, transplanted Midwesterner, probably because of Harmon Killebrew, who was my favorite player growing up.
Yep.
And then became a Rays fan coming down here. I live about 15 minutes from the Rays training site, which is always fun. And we used to have the Charlotte Stone Crabs here, who have now been met their demise through baseball's minor league contraction. So I won't be going to any more of those games, I guess.
Where in the Midwest did you grow up?
Keokuk, Iowa.
Okay, sure.
You know where it is?
Yep, sure do.
I've been there.
Who's been there?
Me. I'm an Iowa kid, Fort Dodge.
Where from?
Fort Dodge.
Okay. Quite a ways away.
Yeah, other side of the state. Yeah.
All the Robertsons are still up in Washington County, Iowa. That's where my dad grew up there, and so they're all Iowans.
I knew there's something good about you, Glenn. I couldn't figure it out.
That's the
It's
only.
nice to find something after all this time.
Yeah, despite the hat, there's something redeeming there. So
Matt, you got Nexus too when he mentioned Killebrew because of your time in the cities.
Yep. I went to college in the Twin Cities, and I became kind of a Twins fan there during that time because the Tigers were not near as good. And that 91 World Series was a definite highlight. Living in the Twin Cities at that time, that was a phenomenal World Series.
It was.
I've been to Des Moines one time on a job interview with Des Moines Area Community College. It was in January. I drove from the airport and I mistakenly left my window down about 2 inches on the driver's side. After about 3 hours on campus, walked out and there was a snowdrift. And I'm not exaggerating, there was 8 inches of snowdrift inside the car. And so for this Florida boy, I decided Des Moines, Iowa was not for me.
I think they have something like a snowstorm this week, similar to that.
Yeah.
I need to tell this gentleman, guys, that it was a Harmon fan that the last 3 years of his career before he went to the Royals for a very short, I covered him and he was one of the finest human being professional athletes I was ever around. He was humble, friendly, answered your questions. You couldn't beat him as a quality person.
I met him.
Never guessed he was a superstar.
I met him personally one time, and I would have to agree with you 100% of the time. 100%. I told him this was probably 20 years ago, I guess, early 2000s that I met him at a function, and I told him that I had grown up with him as my quote unquote hero, and he just went in and talked for 15 minutes. About
wonderful human being.
Yeah, he's one of the class acts in baseball. That is for sure. Mel, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm Mel Poplack. I'm the president of the Southwest Florida chapter, and we're based in Naples. And we've been around 21 years. I've been head of it for 21 years. Nobody else seems to want it, but we have a good time. I'm originally from Rochester, New York. Actually, I was brought up in Utica, and I watched Richie Ashburn play when I was a kid.
Oh,
Nice.
cool.
And Grinny Hamner and Jones and everybody and all the Whiz Kids before they went up to the Phillies. Then we moved to Rochester, and then there was Cal Ripken and Boo Powell. So I had a good minor league upbringing. Moved to Florida, actually got a job with the Red Sox, spring training in Fort Myers. Been with them for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
Fun job.
Cool.
Nice.
Right.
Mel?
Hi, Sam.
Yeah, Mel, my father-in-law, when he started playing baseball in the minor leagues in the United States, the first city he played with was Utica. And I think it was 1946.
Whoa.
Oh,
Were they the Blue Sox?
I was pretty young, but I might have been there. We had season tickets.
Were they the Blue Sox?
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to look it up, but I think they were.
Hey, Mel,
Mel,
the Yankee fans might want to know about Nippy Jones. Do you have a story about Nippy Jones for the Yankee fans?
Nippy Jones.
Nippy Jones.
Shoe polish.
That was the shoe polish episode.
Oh,
Not familiar. Well, you know what? I'm old enough to have watched Satchel Paige pitch in Miami when he was in the International League. It was about 65 years ago.
wow.
Cool.
I still remember it.
Mel, who was your team growing up?
Oh, I had to go from the Phillies to the Orioles when I lived in Rochester, and I was a Yankee hater because they always won, and we didn't want winners all the time.
Yeah.
yeah, that gets boring after a while, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
A lot of that hasn't changed either. I mean,
So boring.
yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. Mr. Collins, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Frank Collins. I'm up here in central Pennsylvania, and I was born and raised in Philadelphia. My dad took me to my first baseball game. I believe it was a Pirates Phillies game in 1955, and I've seen a lot of Phillies games, but I got to admit to being a Yankee fan since 1960. And secretly, in the last few years, I wouldn't mind seeing Cleveland win. I think it's their turn to, after Chicago got theirs and Boston got theirs. I wouldn't have a problem with Cleveland.
Yeah, that's
Agree.
long time coming. 1948, a long time ago.
hard to believe it's been that long. They've been close.
Yeah, yeah.
Before what, 95? Was that the last? When did the Marlins? Wasn't it the Marlins that beat them? 97. Right?
97. 97 was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2016 and 95, and yeah.
Think about the players they had then too. What was it? Baerga and Manny and Tommy. And, oh my God, they had a lineup.
Yep, yep. They were fierce. They were forced to be reckoned with. All right, Mr. Listener, please.
Yeah, hey, I'm Steve Klitzer. I'm with the South Florida chapter, and I saw the invite. I thought it'd be fun to come on today, but we're babysitting my grandson, so I'll shut my camera off. I'll be running back and forth. My wife doesn't notice I keep leaving. Growing up in North Jersey, I actually root for the Yankees and the Mets. Fan of both.
I didn't know that was allowed.
It is. It's very rare. Well, you know, I think one of the reasons is I started to like baseball in the early 60s when I was between 6 and 10 years old. So in the early 60s, as far as I knew, the Yankees always won and the Mets were just lovable and everyone loved them. So I didn't know you had to pick a side. So I became a Yankee and Met fan.
So you were how old during the miracle in '69?
I was 15.
Oh man, you must have really got.
Oh,
Huh?
we were at the game where they clinched the division.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
was the first time I ever saw people run on the field. And I remember we just ran on the field, and I took a piece of the outfield and took it home. And during the World Series, Tommy Agee slipped right at that spot. Luckily, he regained his balance and caught the ball, or I could have cost the Mets the World Series.
Oh man.
But '69 was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Did either Seaver or Kuzman pitch the clincher that day?
No, that, I don't remember. It might have been Jenkins.
It was Kuzman.
They played the Cardinals.
The clincher for the
Yeah. And it was
regular season.
it was Steve Carlton who had just struck him out 19 times and lost the last time he pitched. It was an early game and the Mets beat him.
Huh.
Crazy.
All right, Warren, last but certainly not least, sir.
Sure. My name's Warren Rogan. I'm the president of the Central Florida chapter. Started getting the chapter together again just as the pandemic hit. Our first meeting was in February of last year, and then the pandemic. The chapter had been inactive for many years. I joined SABR about 5 years ago. I'm from Westchester County, New York. I grew up in Ossining, and I am a Mets fan. Watch the Yankees win all the time. Sort of does get tired watching them win. I am a Mets fan. I remember my first ever game, May 30th, 1970. Mets were home at Shea Stadium against the Houston Astros, and I saw Nolan Ryan versus Larry Dierker.
Oh my gosh.
The Mets won that game 4-3. It was cold. We sat in the mezzanine section. I went with my dad, my uncle, two of my uncles, and both of their boys. And we froze like it ain't nobody's business in the mezzanine section as the wind whipped around in there. And we all had to split up and find seats in the upper deck to warm up. And the cruel thing is, I remember the 1970 season. I actually remember the Reds-Orioles World Series in 1970. As a Mets fan, it's cruel because I have zero recollection of 1969.
Oh my goodness.
So, but I do recall, I remember that game in May of 1970, that Astros game, and Mets and Astros. I got hooked. I've been hooked on it ever since. I actually went to professional baseball umpire school, and I actually finished third in my class, but they told me my body stature, I was too small and would get eaten alive, so they didn't assign me or whatever, however they do it, to a minor league, and I went back to college. Not the worst, not the worst decision.
So how would you like to be as cold as you were in a, wherever you're sitting with the bat in your face of Nolan Ryan? Oh man.
Yeah, I'm sorry, say that again. You were breaking up.
Yeah, Brett, I think he was wondering how you'd feel that day if you were standing in the box facing Nolan Ryan instead of sitting in the mezzanine, freezing your.
I think freezing in the mezzanine is probably a better decision. Yeah, he came with heat, but Lord knows where that ball was going to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't dig in. So.
No.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for in each case taking the time to introduce yourself to the rest of the group. Much appreciated. And thanks to the first timers, especially, for joining us. We're looking forward to having you join us in future meetings as well. So please let me know if you'd like to continue to receive the invites. I'll make sure I get you on the list.
Sure.
All right, very briefly here, just kind of a recap of what's transpired in the last month, which has been significant no matter how you look at it. We lost one of the all-time greats, and losing Henry Aaron was personally, for me, one of the harder losses I've ever experienced. Fan of the game for sure. I know we have, as we just mentioned, a number of Braves fans in the group, and I was wondering if any of them had any particular reminiscences they'd like to share with us.
Well, I will say that as a kid, I lived in Sarasota, and at the time, the Braves were my favorite team, and they were training in Bradenton. So I did get to see Aaron play a lot in spring training games, and it was a real thrill. And at the same time, the White Sox were in Sarasota, so there were several games played between the two teams because of the very short distance, and so I had a chance to see a lot of the Braves in that era, including Aaron and Matthews and some amazing ball players. But yeah, it's like, Henry seemed to be going on and on and on, and now he's gone. So
Yeah, he felt to me like he was going to be, for lack of a better way to put it, immortal. That he would, and to lose him was incredibly hard. But the man left a powerful, deep, and significant legacy, and it's hard to say there's much better way to live a life than the way in which he did.
Well, and I think you're speaking to as a human being as well as a ball player.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he just, as a ball player,
class guy,
phenomenal, and perhaps on the Mount Rushmore of baseball, just on those merits alone. But then when you include everything else, did for the game as an executive, for the game as a role model, for the game, whatever, and then just as a human being and a citizen of the country and everything else, he was fantastic.
Well, and what he came through, what he had to survive early as his career.
Yep.
Mistakes, and he did it with such grace.
Yeah. And I hear grace, and you hear gentlemanly, and you hear those kinds of adjectives again and again to describe him. And that's, I think, probably are all true, although I never met the man myself. I never had the pleasure. But to me, he was strength. He was power. He was indomitable. He was
consistent, absolutely consistent,
brilliantly consistent into his 40s, which for an athlete, as we all know by watching sports and watching baseball and so forth, it's not exactly your peak time, but he maintained.
I might be wrong, but I think he has more total bases than anybody in history. I'm not.
It's not only does he have more total bases than anybody in history, he's number one. Number two is Stan Musial. And if you take all of the total bases that Hank Aaron had and all of the total bases that Stan Musial had, who's number two, the distance between the two, Hank Aaron had nearly 12 and a half miles more in total bases than Stan Musial.
I grew up a Stan Musial fan and a Braves fan, so a great admirer of Hank Aaron. And when I read or heard that fact, I was in disbelief. I went, there's some mathematical miscalculation here. Somebody's grossly exaggerating.
I had to do the math too.
So I went and calculated it, and it's truly one of the most astounding facts statistically in baseball I've ever heard of. And it calculates out to over 12 miles. 12 miles at 98 feet per base.
Yeah. And if you subtract his home runs from his total hits, he's still got over 3,000 hits.
Yeah. I mean,
Matt, can you see that? I don't know what you guys are looking at when I've got just a ball from the 75 All-Star game that Aaron was attending. I don't think he was in that game. I think but there's several guys on this ball, but Aaron's name is one of them. So
if you can hold it up a little bit there, Brent, a little higher.
Did you see it?
Yeah, hold it higher.
Barely. Yeah, up high. Like
take it up.
Yeah.
Up toward the ceiling. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me put some light on it too. Does that help?
Whoop.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Yes. Too bright.
Or is it? Well, I'll dim it down. But anyway, I don't even know why I wanted to pick it up, but I just wanted you guys to see. He was such a gentleman, and as a writer, I generally never. The only time was a 75 All-Star game, and there was a bunch of guys, Yastrzemski's on this ball and bench, but all of them that were either Musials on it, guys that either were Cruz, guys that were either already in the Hall of Fame or I knew were headed there. I decided, well, and some of them were already retired. So I got about 8 or 9 on that baseball. It's gotten a little bit yellow through time, but still sits prominently. Still sits prominently in my little office here at the house. But he was just and I had Killebrew on a regular basis. And again, those are two of the great human beings of the game. There are a lot of them, but you'd never know they weren't a local banker or doctor or anything else the way they deported themselves. You know, it's just.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think the loss of Aaron hit everybody in a more significant way than just as a great ball player because of the humanity that he exhibited over the course of his life. And the stories that came out about from people whose careers he helped post his playing after his playing career.
Mm-hmm.
Leo Mazzoni. Aaron called him about being the pitching coach, and he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe he was talking to Hank Aaron and other guys that same type of thing, and how Aaron dealt with people. And I'm sure there's a bazillion untold stories about him as a Braves administrator.
Yeah. And in that time when he was in the Braves office, Bill Lucas was the general manager of the Braves. The first African-American to serve in that capacity like that for any major league club is, I think, as far as I know. His brother, Robert Lucas, was head coach here in Tallahassee at Florida University. And during that time that Robert Lucas was head coach at FAM, Larry Aaron, one of Hank's sons, played FAMU for Robert Lucas.
With Marquise Grissom.
Yeah, with Marquise Grissom, and actually was a coach on that team when Marquise was a player. So Robert Lucas was head coach, Larry Aaron was a coach, and Marquise Grissom was one of their stars in that period of time. So in the, early mid 80s, I think it was when he was at FAMU. So
Ask you guys this. A couple of buddies, we were talking about it. We were saying, my gosh, Aaron's gone. The two, and for so long, the two greatest living legends in baseball, Hank Aaron and Willie Mays.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron's gone. Who do you consider to be the two greatest living legends now?
Well, Mays is still alive.
Yeah, Mays.
BB 91 in May.
He also has this crazy, obscene statistic in his career, like Hank Aaron. Willie Mays hit a home run at least one home run in every inning through the 16th inning. So think about what you have to do to break that record.
That's right. He beat Spahn in that 1-0 Marichal Spahn game, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's right.
I forgot that. That was Mays' home run.
You not only do you have to hit at least one home run in every single inning up to 16, you got to play a 17th inning and hit a home run in the 17th inning. It's a crazy record.
That's that. I never heard that one. That's
As much as I adored Aaron, I think.
Who would you pair up with Willie Mays? Say these are the two greatest living legends in baseball right now. I mean, the only one that came to my mind, and it's certainly on a different level because I'm talking about a pitcher versus a fielder, would be Koufax. But I don't know.
Right. It'd be hard to argue him. Maybe Yastrzemski in Boston, maybe, but it'd be hard to argue Koufax.
Yeah, I like Koufax. I might throw Johnny Bench in there.
Yeah,
consideration.
Steve Carlton.
You can put Pete Rose in too.
Possibly. Falbo.
Yeah, I didn't think about Pete.
Who? I didn't hear the last name.
Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Reds fan says no.
That's a veto.
I was just
maybe if he had never managed. Maybe.
That's quite a question. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Brooks Robinson. I mean, he's not their level in terms of stats, but he was some player.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Mays. Who is that's there's been Koufax.
It really pains me to say this, but Derek Jeter might be in the conversation, and I really am not a fan.
No, I disagree with that.
He's too new. I think he's too new, and and the problem I have with Koufax, who I got a great story about him too. I got a signed Sports Illustrated cover from him. He just doesn't have 170 wins or so. That's what keeps.
Quit at 30.
Yeah.
Mike Schmidt.
Schmidt's a pretty good choice.
Yeah.
Among third basemen, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people say he's the greatest ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
He'd be in that conversation without question. Huh.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about impact on the game, Dusty Baker, he's been part of the game for what, 60 years or something like that. Think of all the players he's like touched, coached.
Yeah.
Obviously he doesn't have stats, even like his managerial stats aren't, but the length of time, his tenure he's had in baseball and the amount of people he's seen, I'd say he could be in the conversation for that legend status.
He represents an interesting niche there because, as you said, 6 decades of exposure, of experience in the game at all sorts of different levels. He's definitely interesting. Joe Torre's kind of that way too, from that standpoint.
How about Nolan Ryan, for God's sakes? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he couldn't. I know he couldn't throw strikes in 1970, but
More than 1970.
yeah. But when you look at his numbers and look at anybody trying to get close to him and things like strikeouts or no hitters, I mean, it's just
Or walks.
Or walks, yeah.
Well, that's right. I mean, he was probably got an ERA well over 3. But if you talk about longevity and just pure dominance, I'm not sure he qualifies with some of the folks you've named with. But he's doesn't he have over 300 wins?
Mhm.
Nolan Ryan, yes.
Yeah.
He's got what, 5,700 strike. I mean, it's just insane the strikeouts.
Well, I think everyone's is putting into the morals clause into who they're looking at.
Is Ernie Banks still around?
No, he
dead.
passed. He's passed. Yeah.
Other than the Pete Rose, nobody's brought up the Bonds or Clemens.
Yeah, I bit my tongue.
They disqualified themselves, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking
Well,
Henry
but that's-
Aaron, there's no way you're gonna put Barry Bonds in the same sentence,
No.
in my opinion.
I think one name that hasn't been brought up yet that I find I would be interested in getting feedback on is Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was
Statistically,
going to mention King Griffey Jr. as long as we're mentioning juniors.
Yeah, Griffey
Yeah.
Jr. is another one.
yeah, but I think it just depends on what kind of Mount Rushmore or what kind of greatest living ball player
Well,
criteria you're going to assemble and make your choice.
Right. That's
and Matt,
Cal
speaking of you
Ripken.
guys you haven't brought up,
Maddox.
how about A-Rod? I mean, you take the drug stuff out of there, and he's one of the top 5-6 players of all time.
Statistically, yes, but
Well, shortstop.
yep.
I mean, think about it. If you're looking at him with a Henry Aaron type of a conduct, there's no question that he's not in this conversation, in my opinion.
Mhm. But yeah, his statistics are very, very difficult to argue.
How many times
I
did an
think,
MVP?
I think part of being the legend too, when you're talking about Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, is also what they've given back to the game and how they, what they overcame and what they did for the game. And when you talk about, a Pete Rose or an Alex Rodriguez and guys like that, Clemens and Bonds, who probably, deserve just as much consideration as they do, their reputation in the game, I think, disqualifies them just based off of what you think about the stature of which and the way Willie Mays and Hank Aaron carried themselves.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
What they did off the field. I think
Right. And that's what
Rose and A-Rod.
that brings it to the George Bretts of the world. And
Right.
everybody.
Well, but
You need to
George Brett, I mean, he had the pine tar incident, but the guy's got a sterling reputation, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm putting him up there.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's somebody we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's another good consideration, definitely.
You could
Yeah,
put,
got a big-
you could put the biggest hot dog of them all in there too, Reggie, I guess.
Well,
Yeah, by the way, I saw that Yogi Berra is going to be honored on a U.S. postage stamp, a forever stamp
Saw that.
this year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yogi.
I will be getting that when it comes out.
Yeah.
Well, another guy that we just lost is one of the classiest guys, I think, in the game over our lifetime is Seaver.
My favorite baseball player of all time.
It's been a rough 2 years. I was going to say Frank Robinson passed away almost exactly 2 years ago.
Then you
Yeah.
got
Brock.
I think Robinson would have
and
been
Brock
right at the
and-
top of this conversation if he was still with us.
Seaver's my favorite of all time. I
Nice.
don't know, somehow I have this, I don't know what you call it, but he sits prominently on
Yeah, we all have our trinkets, don't we?
Yeah.
my baseball almanac shelf.
His August and September in '69 almost carried the Mets to the pennant. I don't think he lost a game, did he? Last 2 months?
He won 9 out of 10, and Kuzman won 10 in a row, I think.
Yeah, I always say if Seaver was a Red for his whole career, his stats would have been off the charts.
Yeah.
His win.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
With that
pitching
team.
for
He
that
might
team.
have won a couple more World Series too.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
And he was another guy that was just an extraordinarily classy man.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was. Yep.
I'll throw a name out there. Nobody thought of. A Cardinal. Not a great Cardinals fan myself because I'm a Pirates fan, but Albert Pujols.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go Ozzy.
Oh no, great player, but I'm talking to Albert as a hitter. It was right
No
up
question.
there.
No
question.
doubt.
Yeah.
No
Particularly if
question.
you started 2000. If you started 2000, he'd be number one, I would think.
I mean,
Yeah.
his
Of this
Yeah.
century.
They're
Yeah.
on there, too.
Yeah.
stats are crazy good.
Yeah.
Did he come up in 2000 or 2001?
That was 2000.
But I know he's this century player, and yeah, there's no question. His numbers are right up there.
One.
He's over 2,000 RBIs.
Yep.
Yeah, he started 2001.
2001. Okay.
Yeah.
He was in the minors when I was down in Jupiter, so yeah.
How old is he? How old is Pujols?
He'll
Oh, he's
be
gotta be
41 this year.
He,
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean-
he turned 41 last month.
Last month, there you go.
Okay.
And I assume he's still playing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Coming
Last
Great.
year.
He's
Yeah,
gonna hang in till number 700.
Really?
He's gonna stay till 700, I think.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah.
His,
That
his
Angels team.
statistics dropped off dramatically when he moved to the
I
American.
think it
League.
helps that he's getting 30 million. this year.
Yeah. He definitely.
I'll come back
made
and
that
pitch
move.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. When he made the move to
Well, you got to
Anaheim,
think
that
the
was-
Cardinals had to see that coming too, because they cut him loose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, the Car-
they must have felt that they could see something, because you just don't let a talent like that get away from you at 31 or 32.
I
No.
think they were sort of ahead of the curve on getting, not doing those contracts that were
Yeah.
for the 30-year-olds.
Yeah. Because
Well,
they
look at
made,
the
they made an offer. They
Tigers
made an
living
offer
with
to
one
him, but it wasn't
Yeah.
real competitive. It certainly wasn't what he was seeking for in the marketplace, but they did make the offer, the gesture, but yeah, I think they were hoping he wasn't going to take it. So
Yeah, and he's never had a year in Los Angeles as good as his worst year in St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah.
true. His best year in Anaheim would have been,
That first one. Yeah.
yep. And that would have followed, as you said, Arthur, right after the worst of his St. Louis years.
Well, if you're getting into dollars, I compared the Real Muto contract to what Posey and Mauer made. It just doesn't add up. I mean, he's nowhere as close to what those guys were, and he's got the highest average annual salary now of a catcher ever. Is there a Philly fan in this group here that wants to defend that?
I'm looking at one thing. This year, Pujols is supposed to have his biggest contract, his biggest number
Yep.
yet. He's supposed to make 30 million this year. That's the most he's made yet. That's crazy.
Wow. Gee.
I actually will defend the Real Muto signing.
All right, good.
Somebody just mentioned Joe Mauer in the debate that's going on. Is he Hall of Fame eligible or a Hall of Fame candidate, I guess?
Well, he caught 950 games.
Pardon me?
He caught 950 games.
Yeah.
I mean, if you figure out,
He actually played more games at first base than he did.
Right.
catching.
right.
Right,
but
and
where he
winning
was-
batting
where he
titles
was
as a
great,
catcher,
I think it's a slam dunk personally.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. They do this, the big deal at the Hall of Fame is they do a best 5 and a best 7. And Mauer, it ranks like, well, even without that, he ranks 7th on Hall of Fame standards. And there's 20, 16, 18, 20 catchers in Hall of Fame. But 3 batting titles and an OPS, healthy into the 800s. I mean, his WAR is in the mid to high 50s, but his best 5 or best 7 is very high.
Oh, yes, the best 5 are
Yeah.
probably very high.
Yeah,
Yep.
But the
That's
last,
my opinion. I don't know. I have this argument with a lot of my buddies here in town.
well, a lot of people will say he doesn't have the, batting numbers, RBIs, home runs, anything, career.
He's got over 2,000 hits and he's got 400 and some doubles, but he doesn't have a lot of home runs, about 140.
He hit over 300 for his career too.
As a catcher.
306
As a
or
catcher primarily.
308. Here's the thing with him. If with his offensive numbers, if he doesn't, there's no way that Posey, Molina, or anybody after him can get in because there's offensive numbers don't. And Busters are going down every year now.
Yeah, I don't think Buster's a Hall of Famer.
Well, yeah, he was a centerpiece of 3 world champions, but I tend to agree with you. His numbers are, there's no way he gets in if Bauer doesn't. It's kind of what I'm saying.
I'm still confused about Thurman Munson not being in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not even a Yankees fan. So
Yeah,
at
my
catcher,
numbers are on the
it gets
margins.
weird at catcher for some reason.
Huh?
I think catcher, it gets weird. Some guys get in that I don't understand, and other guys that seem pretty clear to me to be Hall of Famers don't get in. I mean,
Catchers and third basemen are sort of that way, where
yeah,
they expect them to have better numbers without realizing the defense you have to put in. Both.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of people don't take the defense into consideration. I mean, as a Mets fan, I couldn't stand the Yankees, but I mean, Thurman Munson, I mean, he was the guy.
I mean, and if you look at his numbers, they look like Hall of Fame numbers to me.
I mean, he was a Rookie of the Year. He was an MVP.
Right.
He hit close to 300. No, he didn't have 200 homers. And his career was cut short, obviously, but
He had 113 home runs. Yeah. He had 701 RBIs. His career OPS is 756. See, whereas Mauer's is like 826 or 828. Mauer's got more home runs. I mean, yeah, you can't. I mean, again, if Mauer, Posey, and Molina don't get in, how does the Thurman Munson get in? And now his career batting average is 292.
it's a different game. I don't know. You always say it was a different game, but the guy was defensively. I mean, he won a couple of Gold Gloves. I mean, what more did he have to do?
Well, I think the main argument with Munson, and it wasn't his fault, was the length of the career.
Yeah, he only
I've
played
read a lot about that, and that's one of the
durability is a factor.
But
well, you can't say durability. The guy was killed in a plane crash. He could have played for longer.
Well, people have criticized Don Sutton getting in too, but boy, when you look at his career numbers and where he ranks in the top 10 of 3 or 4 all-time careers, he's got to be in there.
Yeah. How many times did he win 20 games? Only once or twice.
I think only once or twice, but how many times did he win between 15 and 20?
Yeah, but he was consistent, and longevity certainly plays a role in that.
Something like,
it's Fergie Jenkins, but Sutton's got to be in the Hall. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, you know what? How about our Hall of Fame vote, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, glad you asked, Brent. Very good segue. I'll share that here real quick.
I think we matched, didn't we? We put nobody in, and
Yeah, we pretty much matched what the Baseball Writers Association of America did. Let me share that.
Oh, you guys do? That's pretty cool. I have no problem. I didn't think there was a deserving guy. I really didn't. If you take based off of the PEDs, I didn't think there was a deserving guy to go in.
I'll tell you, the guy I have a problem with not getting support is Jeff Kent.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do anything illegal. He may not have been the most likable chap around, but you look at him as a second baseman, what he did offensively, and he was an MVP once.
I think his support will grow. I don't know if he gets to 75 by his last year of eligibility, but I think his support will grow, and he might get a bounce. He might get in years to come here some significant support from, say, SABR or some other individuals who lobby hard for him to get in. I think he's one of those who's kind of on the uptick, but he didn't have as much of an increase in the number of votes he got this versus last year. It was less than I thought he was going to get. Some of the other guys like Roland and Helton and Billy Wagner, they saw huge bumps. Andrew Jones, even Sheffield. saw huge gains, but
Well, Sheffield's career numbers are off the charts, but you know,
What do you guys think about whether Schilling will get in his last year or not?
Not a chance.
I don't think the odds are very good. If he remains on the ballot, if the Hall of Fame doesn't grant his wish and remove him from the ballot, or the writers don't grant his wish and remove him from the ballot, depending on who actually has a say there. But no, I think he burned the bridges.
yeah, he's his own worst enemy.
Absolutely.
But he got 71%, didn't he, this year?
Mhm,
Yeah.
He did. Yep. Which was a
Yeah.
little increase over last year in terms
Yeah.
of support.
I'll tell you the one I struggle with is Billy Wagner.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's one of the most dominant, if not the most
Yeah.
dominant reliever.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, and again, longevity, and you're talking, you know, a relief pitcher who was basically the top of his game for 15 years. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah. And he was one of those guys when he came in the ninth, you thought, okay, that's it
So
for the Stros or the Braves or whomever. So
Yeah, you know, really, there's only one relief pitcher in the Hall of Fame, some Yankee guy that statistically succeeds him. He's
You know, and he
dominated.
got by on one pitch too. That's the thing that kills me. What the hell?
Yeah. Really?
Stinking cutter.
Yeah.
Wagner's
Oh,
got-
that failed starter, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you talk about dominance. His whip is under one career, Wagner. He's got 1,200 strikeouts to 900 innings roughly. I mean, his ERA is 2.73. The guy's numbers are up. He was dominant, start to finish. I'm with whoever brought him up.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. I really
I
do.
do too. I do too.
Out of everybody on that list, again, taking the steroids, you know, considering steroids, and you know who else? Todd Helton.
I liked Helton's numbers. I didn't vote.
I did,
for
yeah.
the competition here that I've got the results of right here for our ballot, but I wouldn't have Helton getting in. The guy I like is Scott Rowland. I'm still a Scott Rowland backer, but
Can I actually like expose my bias on the relief pitcher thing? And I feel bad picking on Billy Wagner because he really was a terrific pitcher. But I'm looking at our votes, and 6 of us voted for Billy Wagner, and nobody voted for Mark Burley. And there is no way you can convince me that Billy Wagner's career was more valuable than Mark Burley's.
I think it depends how you look at him, though.
Like I said, this is my bias against relief pitchers.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Burley did a whole lot more for his team over his career than Billy Wagner did. I mean, you were just talking about, you know, how many innings has somebody pitched? How many hits do they have? How many games did they play?
I think Burley. I think what hurts Burley, rightly or wrongly, is he didn't play with good teams. You know, and I think because he had to average over 200 innings a year. I don't know if he ever won 20 games. He was so quiet. I don't think a lot of people, you know, well, obviously baseball writers should have, but he just didn't get any sort of recognition. Never won a Cy Young.
His career ERA is 4.11, guys.
I want to be clear. I didn't vote for Burley either. My
I
point is that
I think his stats are right on line with Andy Pettit.
Yeah, I don't think
that's a good comp.
No, but I'm saying that's where I believe that his stats are almost comparable for regular season.
He just doesn't have the postseason stats. Yeah.
Pettit's numbers are better.
And Pettit played for great teams, whereas Burley,
And that makes a difference too.
by and large, didn't.
Their ERAs, their win-loss, all that's pretty much the same. I mean, it's.
Oh, I heard a good Burley stat recently. Near as they can tell, he's the only person, you know, this goes back to like 1918. So there's some non-play-by-play games that maybe Walter Johnson did it. But Mark Burley is the only guy that they know for sure had 3 games where he faced the minimum 27.
Wow.
And
He
I
had-
just
he had
called.
a no-hitter that wasn't perfect, but there was a double play. He had
Right.
the perfect game, and he had another one where he gave up 2 hits, but there were either caught stealings or double plays. They had 3 games where he faced the minimum. Nobody else seems to have had more than 2.
You know, I'm looking at his stats right now. He played 16 years and only one time did he finish a season under 500. That's pretty
What are you
good.
talking about?
Mark Burley.
Yeah. No, he's a very good major league pitcher.
Yeah.
Pettit was 103 games over and a 1 loss. Very few pitchers are 100 over. Kershaw still isn't. Almost. He'll get there this year. But in an ERA 3.74 career, Burley's was 4.11. That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a harder pill to swallow on a ERA lifetime over 4.
Yeah.
This coming from a Tigers fan, Jack Morris 3.9 career. So
Right. But he was arguably the dominant pitcher in the American League for a decade too. Morris.
Yeah, but no Cy Young, etc. Yeah.
Right.
But my larger point is, I think Billy Wagner is a better relief pitcher than Mark Burley was as starting pitcher. But starting pitchers are just more valuable. They just are.
Well, at least they used to be. We don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Really?
That's so every day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Art,
it's their argument.
Art, I think the difference is when you stack up all relief pitchers, those that are in the Hall of Fame, to me, Wagner is number 2 statistically. You could argue 3 or 4, but I mean, he's creme de la creme among relief pitchers. And they're different positions, obviously, and they have different value points. As a starting pitcher, Burley, is he in the upper third of all time in pitchers? Maybe, but he's not creme de la creme. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve. I didn't vote for him. And don't
Again,
know
I didn't
enough.
either, but
Don't know enough about him. They're 2 different to me, they're 2 different positions. It's like, a catcher carries a whole bunch of different criteria to me than an outfielder, for instance. It's just they're 2 different beasts.
Well, I'll bring another point of view into that. Johan Santana, who for several years in the early part of this century was the most dominant pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But his career pretty much flamed out. But he had, 2 Cy Youngs, probably should have 2 more. And I think was, you go back and look, I'm not sure the years, Matt, you might be able to help me out there, but, from 4 through 7 or whenever it was.
Yeah. I think
But I think his
Cy Youngs.
his peak though was like 3 or 4. So I mean, it was like 1 year short of probably what it should be.
Yeah, he was this and then kind of that. Pretty cool.
I don't even know if he's on the ballot.
I know he didn't survive. I think he was one and done.
Yeah, that's.
And that was last year, I think, or 2 years ago. So, but getting back to Mark Burley, I will say this: I didn't vote for him. I doubt I would, but I'm glad he survived the first cut and he got more than 5%, so he can stay on the ballot, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see if he enjoys more support in the years to come as people take another look at his career. I think those kinds of cases are fascinating, and I just am curious to see if opinions change over time, because the stats don't.
Now, but I just looked up Santana. 50.17 WAR despite that brief career. 139 and 78, a 3.20 ERA. What was his career with? I wonder. Well, it was higher than I thought. 1.13, but still, that's pretty healthy. Those numbers, and if you match those numbers against Burley, even though Burley has 60, 70 more career wins, the rest of it doesn't match up in terms of,
I think of Johan Santana and Felix Hernandez very similarly. Just their peaks were just astounding.
Yeah. King Felix,
that's
for
the
his
point.
peak period. Yeah, every bit as much as Johan. That's true. That's very true.
And Felix probably won't ever make it. Look, he was arguably the best right-hander in the league for 8-10 years.
Yeah, very close. Very close. He and Verlander were right there.
Yeah.
And I don't think he makes it. I wonder if he's even going to pitch again. So,
The interesting thing, I think one of the other interesting things as you go forward with that, let's see, Hernandez won the Cy Young in 2010 at 13 and 12.
yeah.
I think wins are going to be devalued as we move forward, because you have pitchers today
Mhm.
that are never gonna, the 20-win season is slowly, if not, has already disappeared. And you can't measure wins. I mean, DeGrom won the Cy Young twice and didn't even win 12 games.
Felix too.
Yep.
You know,
And that's, I think you're hitting on another person who obviously,
Yeah, but he had to pitch for
but
the
he's going
Mets.
to be, yeah. Well, he pitched for the Mets. Yeah, it doesn't hurt, but he's also going to be a very interesting case when time comes because he's already older. He's not accumulating the huge counting stats in terms of wins and so forth. But when he's eligible finally, it's going to be hard to ignore the numbers he achieved that he
Yeah,
did.
he's so dominant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be very hard to ignore that. So yeah, Warren, I think you're right. I think the wins are already devalued. And so that's what's going to make Burley an interesting contrast case, I guess I would say, to that, because some of his stats are more favorable in regards that are not considered valuable anymore.
yeah.
The lifetime over 4 ERAs, I think that's still going to be a deal breaker for many people.
I just looked up DeGrom. Obviously, he was a rookie of the year. Twice he won the Cy Young. He's played 7 years. He averages 10 wins a year. He has 70 wins. Yeah, obviously last year being the aberration, but he won a Cy Young going 10-9 and another going 11-8.
Yeah. Well, I'll bring it back to, I just look at the Santana, 6 years in a row, he's in the top 7 in the Cy Young. 5 of those times top 5, and twice he won it. I mean, you talk about a dominant period, and he's not even on the ballot.
Yeah. Yep. One and done. Well, folks, let me, I hate to cut this short because I think this is a great discussion. And every year, or sorry, every month when we bring up Hall of Fame voting, whether it's ongoing or it's happened or it's nowhere near, it always generates this kind of good, healthy discussion, which I always appreciate and enjoy. But one common theme I kept hearing throughout that were references to Mets pitchers. And while we're not about to talk about a pitcher, we are about to talk about the Mets. So with that, I'd like to pass the mic over to Mr. Putnam for his presentation on So a Man Walks into His High School Reunion with a World Series Ring.
All right. Yeah, it is my story, and it's a true story. And it begins in the fall of 1958 when I was the new kid in school, 6th grade at Bay Haven Elementary in Sarasota. And if you'll give me, I met a lot of very interesting and wonderful people that year. And one of them is this guy. If you'll show us slide 1, please, Matt. There he is.
Wow.
And so I've known Wayne since I was 10 years old. And so I'll tell you a little bit about him, what he was like as a kid, and a little bit about his career, which you can read about online, and then some of the stories that he's told me about life as a big league ball player. So one of the things that you have to know about Wayne that's really important is that he is the youngest of 3 ball playing brothers. I don't know if any of you guys know or are familiar with Adrian Garrett, who was the best ball player in Sarasota High School in 1961. His middle brother, Jim Garrett, best ball player at Sarasota High in 1963. And Wayne, the best ball player in 65. And they all played professionally. So I got to know Wayne just basically, playing at PE and recess and stuff in elementary school. And then the next year we moved on to the junior high. We'll go to the next slide. And that is.
And he looks like Tony Kubik.
You think so? Yeah, maybe there's a resemblance there. Okay, so here's the, oh, we lost it.
Hang on, Kent, there, I'm gonna.
Okay.
There.
All right, so here's my 9th grade yearbook. And if you go over to the far right and second guy down, and the second line on the far right. There he is. There's Wayne. And he wrote a little note down here talking about what a great guy I am. And I can't argue with that. But he reminded me that we were in this crazy shop class together. And in fact, I believe we were like partners. They would have your partner together on projects. And I probably owe the fact that I still have 10 fingers and 2 operating eyes to Wayne. He was a lot more adept with all that heavy duty machinery. But anyway, we played JV football, and I know I pitched to him many times in PE softball, and probably would not surprise you to know that he was a tough out. And anyway, we were good buddies back in those days. And why don't we go to the next slide? In 1963, we moved on to Sarasota High School across the street. And I knew Wayne. We weren't quite as close, and it wasn't that we had some kind of falling out or anything like that. It's just that we weren't in a lot of classes together, and I was doing academics and he was doing baseball. And you'll see this is the baseball page from my senior yearbook. And here on the left below, that's Wayne swinging the bat left-handed. And over here on the right is a guy named Tom Cook, who Wayne was drafted right out of high school in '65. Tom was drafted a few years later after playing college ball, and played a few years in the minors, but he had some injury problems. Anyway, Sarasota High School, at least back in my day, was always a perennial baseball power. And Wayne and his 2 older brothers were a big part of that picture back then. So, as I said, he was drafted by the Braves in '65, and he was played 4 years in the minors for the Braves, but he became available in the Rule 5 draft and was taken by, yes, indeed, the New York Mets. And so let's see if we're ready for another slide here. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to another slide. So his first year in the majors was a year in which the Mets went all the way, won the World Series. And Wayne played, I've got some stats, career stats here at the end that we can take a look at, but he typically, he had a fairly small role he played, but his role during the regular season was not huge. But where he was huge was in the first ever NLCS, where the Mets beat the Braves in 3 straight. Okay, so I've got some numbers for his '69 regular season. Played 124 games, hit .215 with a home run and 39 RBIs. In the NLCS, he hit .385, and in deciding Game 3, he hit the go-ahead home run. Now, that was at a time when they did not award an MVP trophy in the league championship series, but I think if you were to go back and look at the numbers of the various Mets players in that series, this would be the guy who would probably been the NLCS. After the '69 season, there was a pattern that a lot of people have spoken about and written about, and so I'm not making this up, but the Wayne, as you saw in the picture, throws right, batted left, and the Mets were constantly looking for a right-handed hitting third baseman to play the second half of the platoon at third base. And as a consequence, they never really gave Wayne the chance to be an everyday player. And as well as they traded away some pretty darn good ball players, including Amos Otis and a fella named Nolan Ryan, to come up with these guys who were generally well past their prime and didn't contribute much at all. So you talk to a lot of Mets fans from back in that day, and Wayne was a very popular player, and the fans were not very happy with the way the front office dealt with him. So let me see what I look at my notes here. Yeah, I'll just mention that unfortunately he had a lot of injuries. I'm looking at, well, he missed the first 5 months of 1971 when he was in the National Guard. He hurt his shoulder in spring training in 72. He played with, during that same season, he played with a hamstring pull, and he had another shoulder injury in 73. His I shouldn't have this written. Anyway, after 1975, the Mets had once again taken on a new veteran third baseman, in this case, Joe Torre, and Wayne's playing time went down. And eventually he, let's go to another slide, Matt. Eventually he was traded to Montreal in 1976. And there's another one of his cards from his Mets days. And then in 77, he platooned and hit 270 at Montreal, but he tore a ligament in a slide, and that ended his season. In 1978, he was traded to the Cardinals and wrapped up there his major league career after 10 seasons with a total of playing in 1,092 games, 3,900 plate appearances, batting average of 239, 61 home runs, and 340 RBIs. And so here you can see more of a breakdown of what he did in each of those years. I had the chance to talk to Wayne a couple of weeks ago, and really had a wonderful conversation with him. And I had a couple things that I wanted to talk to him about. One of them was when I had spoken to him before, I mostly seen him at high school reunions in the last few years. But one time I remember distinctly that he was probably, well, he told me that he held Gil Hodges in the highest regard. And he talked to me then about it. And oh yeah, I did want to bring this one out too. One of the reasons I think that Wayne had a long career, a relatively long career, was that he hit left-handed through right, played several positions in the infield, and he was a good teammate. And I don't know how many of you guys know what we're looking at here in this picture, but the fellow there on top wearing number 11 is Mr. Garrett. And underneath there is Bud Harrelson and Pete Rose. And they had a rather heated argument that where Wayne stepped in to help out his teammate, who was outweighed by about 30 pounds by Mr. Rose. So anyway, after I want to talk in a minute about Gil Hodges, because Wayne had spoken so highly of him. And he said he was not only a brilliant baseball mind, but that he was a great manager of players and and on top of everything else, just a wonderful human being. And when I had a chance to talk to him a couple weeks ago, I asked him some more about Gil, and he said that um, he came up to the majors, and Gil had been his only manager for the first 3 seasons, and so he kind of thought that's how managers managed. But when after Gil died and he was replaced, and then of course Wayne played for his other managers and his other stops, he found out just what an amazing manager Gil was, and he gave me a couple of examples. One was that he would always let a hitter know a few innings in an inning or two in advance that he was likely going to come in as a pinch hitter, and give the hitter time to get loose and get warmed up. Wayne said that didn't happen in some of the other spots he was. A lot of times it was just like the manager would look over there and say, grab a bat, you're in there. And he also talked about how Gil would go in between innings. He would walk down the bench and talk to the players who were not in the game at the time, and tell them about potential scenarios in the upcoming innings where they might enter the game, so that they could be mentally prepared and really paying attention to the game. So I was really impressed with that, and I also just finished reading part of the most recent biography of Gil Hodges, and between character and his playing career and his career as a manager, there's a guy that I think really belongs in the Hall of Fame. So let's go to the next slide. After Wayne left St. Louis, he had a chance to play ball in Japan. So here he is playing for I think it's the Nagayo Dragons. And he played there for 2 years. And I know that, I talked to him at length about this, and he said, it's crazy. Everything is crazy. That's what he told me. And about Japanese baseball. And of course, you have to remember this is 50 years ago, 45 years ago. But he was talking about how, I said, well, what was crazy about it? He said, well, for example, they paid you in cash every week. And I said, really? He said, yeah, they just started handing out bills. And in the clubhouse after the last game of the week, And he said another thing that was crazy, and I looked this up. I don't think this is true any longer, but he said they played, I've forgotten now how many games. Maybe it was 3 days of games, and then a day off. And that was the schedule for the entire season. And so sometimes they would have no game on a Friday, or no game on a Saturday, or no game on a Sunday. And he said it was just very, very weird. I'm trying to think what else. Oh yeah, he said the communication between, of course he had a translator, but he said the communication between the front office and the players and the manager and the players was basically nil. That you were either told to get out there and play your position, or you were just left sitting on the bench without any explanation. And so there were a lot of other things that I'll kind of try to keep from going long here, but it sounded like quite an experience. He did, but there were some things about it that he liked a lot. He said there were only 6 teams in each league, each of the 2 leagues, and there was no, at least at that time, there was no interleague play game. So he only ever played 5 other teams. His team only played 5 other teams, and one of the stars of one of the opposing teams in the league, if you'll give me the next slide, was this guy, his brother. Adrian played for the Carp, and they were in the same league. So they played each other a lot, and they were over there with their wives, and the Garrett brothers and their families spent a lot of time together, even during the season. He said that was really a great thing for him. And another thing that he did like about Japan was that he said that travel was very easy, that they never got on an airplane. The cities, the teams were close together geographically, and they would just take the bullet train and ride for an hour or two. So anyway, after 2 years, he kind of had enough, and he told me this crazy story about how. Oh, he said it had been a really rainy year, and they had a lot of rainouts. And another crazy thing about Japanese baseball was they played all the rainouts no matter what, including after the World Series. They would play. He said his team was going to be playing 25 meaningless games after the World Series. They didn't make it. So anyway, he wrapped it up then, and since then he had kept a house in Sarasota. He moved back to Sarasota. He dabbled in real estate for a while, but the market was not good. So after a few years, he got into a business with his other brother, Jimmy. He calls him Jimmy. And they were they weren't owners, but they worked for a company that sold irrigation systems to golf courses. And that's what he did for most of his post baseball career life. And now he's retired, happily retired, married. He's got kids and grandkids, and he still lives in Sarasota and plays golf with a group that includes some other former ball players a couple times a week. And there he is at the 50th reunion. He's the one holding his hand up. And I think the other guy on the cart is catcher J.C. Martin, if I remember right. And he said he enjoyed that. He said it was pretty bittersweet, though. There were a lot of guys who had passed away, and a lot of guys who were not, although they were still alive, they were not physically able to come to New York for the celebration. And I don't know if I got any more slides, Matt. Yeah. Oh, that's just there's my signed Garrett ball, and one of my few memorabilia.
Wow.
That's kind of my story about Wayne. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Hey, Ken, I noticed a real interesting stat in his career line. He walked more than he struck out. You'd never see
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was neat.
You didn't get a photo of his ring?
You know, I thought about asking him for that, but no, I didn't, in a word.
Pretty simple answer.
Yeah.
350 on base percentages were certainly respectable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And I think it's interesting that it seems like statistically you could argue his best season was 73 when they got to the series but lost to the A's.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
1658, yeah.
256.
Those are solid numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What I saw that was interesting in his numbers, Kent, was that he played virtually the entire NLCS in '69.
I know.
Barely appeared in the World Series, and that's really interesting.
I know. Yeah. And I did not go so far as to look to see who was pitching for the opponents, but I think at that point the either the opposing teams were all right-handed, or it's also possible that whoever was the other half of the platoon at that point, which was Joe
Ed
Foy.
Charles.
Ed Charles.
Yeah, Ed Charles. Yeah, that's right. He
Wasn't
may
it
have
the
been.
Orioles?
Pardon?
69 was Orioles, right?
Yep, correct.
So you had Cuellar and McNally. You got two lefties right off.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right.
Now that was a series, but in the and I don't think he played a whole lot in the series, but he did play a lot in the NLCS against the Braves.
He had four, I think four. I was just looking at it before. I think he played in 2 games with 4 plate appearances, and he played virtually the entire NLCS. So it's a little strange.
Yeah.
Especially when he hit what 385, I think you said in the world or I saw
Yeah.
it
In
with
the
a home run.
NLCS,
Very
yeah.
strange, very strange.
I wonder if he
Yeah.
was named somewhere.
And again, it goes back to what I was saying, that a lot of the Mets fans are, to this day, they're still pissed off that he didn't play more for them, and that they kept dealing for these washed up players that to play the other half of the platoon. That really just none of them until Joe Torre came along. Of course, obviously he still had some tread left on his tires, but some of these other guys. It was Ed Charles, Joe Foy, and Fregosi, I know, were 3. And they were just guys who had been excellent ball players in their days, but they were well past their primes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I had a wonderful 2-hour conversation with Wayne a couple of weeks ago, and he was as nice as he could be, really. And
hey guys, a little self promotion if anybody's interested. I host a podcast. It's called Sports Forgotten Heroes, and you can get it on virtually any platform. And I have actually recording episode number 100 this coming Monday. I release a new episode every other Tuesday, and I have dozens of baseball podcasts. I've had Denny McClain on. I've had Skip Lockwood on. It's mostly about guys who have passed away. I talked to Denny about Dean Chance. Dean was Denny and Dean were great friends, and in fact, Denny was a pallbearer at Dean's funeral. But I read these books and I talk to the authors. I talk to researchers, writers. So it's not just me talking. Nobody wants to listen to me. It's the I have some really good guests. So if any of you ever listen to podcasts and you're looking for something interesting, Sports Forgotten Heroes, I got plenty of baseball podcasts on there.
Cool.
Cool. Any other questions for Kent?
No, good job. Good job.
I thought it was really good, Kent. I forgot about Wayne. He's an all-time favorite. You're right. I mean, could never understand why he didn't get more playing time. With
and one thing about it is he was always one of the nicest people I knew growing up. Really, he was just a sweetheart of a guy. And it was interesting. He was really. I would say pretty introverted when we were kids. He really didn't really talk all that much. And but when I got him on the phone the other day, and well, a lot of it, I asked him about what it was like playing ball in New York, and because I thought maybe small town kid, and how New York has kind of been too much for some guys, some ball players. But he said he liked it. He said he really, once he got kind of used to the pace of it all and saw how much fun it could be, he really enjoyed New York and I'm sorry to say this, Brent, one exception, the press. That was New York.
Yeah, it takes a lot. Maybe I can't, I met Dick Young back in the 70s when he was chasing around, and I can understand why. But well, I got a question. Kent, your elementary school?
Yeah.
Was that by chance the same elementary that W was sitting in when he heard about 9/11? Wasn't that in Sarasota?
It was in Sarasota, but I don't think it was the same one.
Okay, I was just curious when you said that.
Yeah. But that one it's really a neat old school. It must have been one of the first public schools built in Sarasota. It's one of those Mediterranean revival of things that I would guess it was maybe built back in the 30s, maybe even a little bit before that. And it had kind of gotten a little bit run down when I was there, but I drove by there a few years ago to take a look at it, and they had just totally refurbished it, and all these architectural details that were just part of the finish back then had all been painted in these really bright colors. It's really cool old school. Yeah.
My second
Yeah,
son
that-
lives there, Kent, and you couldn't get him out of Sarasota. He just loves it.
Who's that?
My second boy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, I remember it when it was a town of like 30,000 people. And that's now I go down there. It's like, whoa.
Hey, Kent, did he talk at all about his trade to Montreal? What it was like going from a place like New York to a foreign country to a place like Montreal?
Just a little bit, really, honestly, he said that it was different and he had some adjustments to make. But, at that point, I think he was getting frustrated with the injury situation and not getting more playing time. And I think those were more his concerns than Montreal. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll ask him about that next time I talk to him.
Yeah, I wonder if getting traded to Montreal was in a very loose roundabout way, something that prepared him or made him more comfortable with going to Japan.
Yeah.
The fact that if his brother already preceded him there, his brother could sell him on the
Yeah.
benefits of it. But yeah, it kind of made him a little more comfortable to give that a try. Of course, playing in New York, probably, I don't know if you enjoy it or if you can find some sort of peace with it, maybe that makes you comfortable with doing just about anything else after that. Who knows?
I like how you say he was shy, but if you look at the bio, he was on the dating game. So
Yeah, I know.
Oh, he was?
Actually, I think I saw that episode too. Yeah.
Yeah, I see Foster Brooks up there. They hadn't contributed a word.
Huh.
Talking to Fred. I think he's sleeping on us.
Oh, no.
Oh, Fred's here.
I'm still laughing at that, Fred.
Yeah, I will tell you that I had intended to come at the beginning of the meeting. However, there was some really nice Pinot Noir, and I actually fell asleep in my easy chair. I'm sorry, guys.
I think every month we hear a different excuse for why someone didn't make it. I think Pinot Noir outed as the reason why someone missed the.
I love the Foster Brooks.
Missed first pitch there because he was back in the clubhouse enjoying a fine vintage. So
Yeah, some of us are old enough to have been eligible for second shots, which I have. I do. I wonder about the rest of the guys. Have you got them or?
Two for
I
me.
get mine in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I got mine tomorrow.
Your second or your first?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
And then there's some youngsters out there. They won't qualify for a while, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping in the next couple of years I'll get mine.
yeah. I think July 2022 is looking really good right now.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll catch up.
Yeah,
There's plenty.
Yeah.
It's great to have these guys. I hope these guys from out of town keep joining us. It's a lot of fun to hear.
It is.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I'd be glad to add you to the mailing list, as it were, and keep you posted as to when we're doing our socials. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is these Zoom meetings follow the same pattern that we had when we were doing in-person meetings. It's the first Wednesday of every month, come rain or shine. And we've been a little bit better, a little bit more diligent about having a featured presenter present on one topic or another pretty much every month. But once in a while, we just have a kind of just general free-for-all discussion. But yeah,
We're all far more sober.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
There's that too. That's nominally at least. Yes. Yeah. Variety is not a prerequisite. It is not. Although
Matt, you guys are welcome to join us on Thursday, a week from Thursday on the 11th. We're going to have Dan Taylor, who wrote about the Hollywood Stars, and Steve Bratkovich, who wrote about baseball bats and their history.
yes.
So we've got two excellent presenters coming up, and everybody's welcome to join in.
Yep. Thank you, Sam.
If you need any information, just write me and let me know.
Yep. No, I owe our chapter the information you sent me when you posted that via the SABR membership functionality last week. So I will be sending that to my chapter, our chapter as well, so that they'll have that information and they can join next Thursday, February 11th at 7 p.m. Is that correct?
7 p.m. Yep.
7.
Did anybody else get to see the Sabre Day presentation Saturday with Bob Costas, the
Yes, yep,
I thought that was excellent. Yeah.
that was
Is
very
the
well done.
video, is the video available? Do you know? Is there a
I
link?
believe it's on YouTube. I think
Yeah.
I saw an email.
I know they
Okay.
have highlights off of saber.org, and as Arthur just pointed out, I was wondering if they put the whole thing on, because it was recorded, if they put the whole thing on YouTube yet, but yeah, I'd say go ahead and take a look at that and see if
Yeah, I'll look at it.
find it, I'll send it out.
Matt, I'm curious if our Miami guest thinks there's a good chance this year, maybe for the Marlins to get out of the last place. They certainly showed some great improvement last year.
From our
I think-
Marlins fans,
A bit of an apparition last year. If you look at the run differential, they were pretty fortunate. They had as many wins as they did. My personal prediction, I see them falling back and probably going at the bottom of the Eastern Division.
Too bad.
yeah, that's the toughest division in baseball, I think, at least the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard for them. I think they will regress some, but I think they've gotten a little bit of a taste of it though, and I want to see how some of these young guys in the second year come through, what they do, how they react, how they handle it. Presumably a full season. We'll see.
Sixto Sanchez, especially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of their young arms, even the guys who've been there a couple of years, like Alcantara. How do they handle it? So, all right. Anything else for the good of the order, folks?
Great meeting, Matt.
Excellent, yes.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think.
Hey, Kent, good job.
For all your work.
Yeah, well done, sir. Well
Thank you,
done,
Brent.
Kent.
Good.
Very much
job.
enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it also, thanks.
And I'll make sure I get to all you all added to the invite for next month. And
love to.
looking at March, oh gosh, what is it here? The 3rd,
Same day, same day.
same day. Yep.
That's right.
28 days.
All right, folks. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Had a great time. Glad everyone enjoyed it. Again, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Invitation.
Thanks for
And
inviting
we'll
us.
see y'all next month.
Me, I think.
Again,
It's
good
second day
meeting
of
y'all.
session, so I
Last
probably
Thursday.
won't be around.
Oh,
Oh.
that's right. Yeah, some of us have to work. That's right.
Yeah.
Glad I don't.
Yeah.
My condolences.
Yeah, rub it in, pal. All right, y'all take care.
Yeah.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.